Welcome, founders, to Startups.com. We are live. We are here today. Got a great show planned for you. I'm running solo than our usual team. And that's because I'm going to be doing a live pitch deck review. I've had founders send me pitch decks from all around, and we're going to take a look at them. I'm going to make a commentary as well as a review and a critique on the business model. And I'm just going to give it to you straight and let you know what I think in terms of these pitch decks. From my experience, I am a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits. I've raised over $100 million for startups, for my startups, for other people's startups and funds during my day. So I've been around. I've been the general partner for late stage fund out of Shanghai, China, as well as the general partner for a venture studio here in North America. I look at pitch decks all day, every day. There's not a day that goes by where I'm not looking at least 5 pitch decks and helping founders with their raise. I work with the team at Fundable.com, Startups.com in terms of helping founders raise capital. The team has raised over $750 million for startups back in the day. Throughout this time, it's a tough environment out there. So hopefully I'll be able to share some insights as we look at these pitch decks and go from there. Before we continue, I want to tell all of you, please feel free to use the Q&A box. Type in or a highlight, a shout out, or your question into the chat right now, and I'll make sure that I answer, or use the Q&A box. That's going to be the best way, and I'm going to answer questions. You might have questions about the pitch decks that we're looking at. I'm going to answer those questions, or you may have questions not related, and I'll answer those questions anyway. So we're going to spend some time together and take a look and hopefully give you some insights and answer some questions. And if you are looking for your own pitch deck review, send me an email, contact me via startups.com, advisor@startups.com for those of you who are members. Or if you're watching this in a recording like YouTube or any social media, leave a comment, say, I want to have my pitch deck done, and then I'll respond to you. Or you can always just email them to advisor@startups.com. Please be patient. There is a waiting list. I've got a queue of like 8 pitch decks that I know I'm not going to touch even today, and they keep piling up. So I'm going to try to get through them as fast as possible, but create a learning experience for everyone while we're doing it. Another comment as I get this all loaded up is that anybody who sends me a pitch deck, kudos to you. It takes courage to send a pitch deck, and I want to make sure that you understand that I'm just trying to help you. I'm sitting on the same side of the table as you. This is just my opinion alone. There are many other advisors who are going to have different opinions, but this is just my opinion. But I appreciate anybody who's willing to put their stuff out there and say, let me get a pitch deck critique. And if you got comments, please leave them for these founders, but be nice, because we're all in this same boat together, and hopefully you get to learn something out of it. Let's start off. First of all, here we go with this first pitch deck. Actually, let's answer a question first. So Chris asked this question: how many types of decks should you build and have on hand? Example. Okay, it is not uncommon for me to have 10 different pitch decks. All right. Sometimes I have 12 different pitch decks. So it all starts with the master pitch deck, where I'm putting everything in it, like everything that's going to go into the pitch deck and putting it in there, just so that I have it. So it's better to have and not need than to need and not have, right? So I'm building the pitch deck and everything, appendices, research, anything that you would put into due diligence, you name it, I have it in a master pitch deck. So that way, when an investor tells me, hey, what about this? Or asks me a question, I go, hey, I just happen to have a slide for that, and I'll go yank that up and show the investor. And that's what you want to do. You want to have it on hand. But then it all starts off with the teaser / intro / screener deck. All right. It goes by many names. And that is your 10 to 12 slide deck that you upload online as a link. And when you send it, you send an outreach, or you send somebody an email about your startup, your introduction email, whatever. And let's just say you know the investor. You're like, thanks. It was a great meeting at the party the other day. Here's a link to my pitch deck. Love for you to connect and let's talk about it. Then that is the intro deck. And the purpose of that deck is for the investor to scan through it in literally 90 seconds, 2 minutes. I pretty much know if I'm interested or this pitch deck is worth more time in the first 90 seconds. It actually starts with the introductory email. If I don't understand what's going on or what you're doing in the first 90 seconds, I probably won't click a link. And people won't accept attachments these days. There's spam filters, everything. That's the reason you put on a link and you put it online. So the introduction email, and then I watch it. But then the next deck might be something called a socialization deck, where the investor says, okay, in terms of the next step, not I'm going to write you a check, but you're in, we want to take the next step. And you ask the investor, what would you like to see? And they say, I would like to get more into your customer acquisition, your business model, your traction, whatever you're going to do. And then you have that ready, because you're going to pull that information from the master deck into this other presentation, socialization deck. Or the investor might say, send me more information on this, and so I can pass it around like the analyst or the scout, and then that's the next deck. Remember, they've already seen that. They've already seen the screener introduction deck, and they're just making a sorting decision on whether they want to see the next deck. But let's say you're seeing somebody live and you're going to present to them. Well, then that's another deck. And let's say it's a technical. Someone says, okay, we want to look at all your tech stack. You might have to have a technical deck in there. Friends and family deck. All sorts of different decks you could be using. So technical, non-technical, sophisticated, unsophisticated investor. I have them in all different shapes and sizes, and I have them ready, and I'll usually know. And because I have that master deck, I've got all those decks ready. So it's not uncommon. I've had up to 12 decks for any startup. I even had different decks for different co-founders. Sometimes I'll be presenting and I'll have images or I'll have slides with my story attached to it. And then a co-founder will present and they'll be presenting on their own and I won't be there. And they'll replace all the slides with their own deck. So you have to be flexible and don't be surprised if you have so many multiple decks. So great question. I hope that helped. Next, I'm working on the market size slide, which is proving a bit problematic. I'm focusing on the UK construction sector first. However, from year 2, we are expanding in other sectors, and year 3, expanding other jurisdiction. All right, so I see the confusion already. We really see our platform being a global solution. All right, so thank you, Karim, for asking that question. Your market slide and your projections and your financial model are all different things. Mix it all together. Like, don't just conflate the 3. So remember, your market slide is simply the potential of the market with an estimation, your SOM, of what you expect to be doing in 5 years should you get the investment and what's realistic. But TAM is everybody who could possibly use your product, every single person, and your justification, and you show the math. This is a bottom-up TAM. There are other ways to do this, but you may say, if you've got a cybersecurity solution, you may say, oh, cybersecurity is a $4 trillion market. Or you may say there is $4 billion that's lost every year based on cybersecurity issues. Or there's 4 billion, I got one founder said 1 billion knowledge workers working in B2B sales right now. That's your top down. But then you say, all right, so if I focus on this segment, that's your SAM, and you multiply that by what you're going to charge, that's your SAM. And that's if you hit everybody. So the TAM is pie in the sky, has to have a B behind it if you want startup investors. Billions, right? This is billions. You want to show how big the market is so that the investor knows this is a big, big problem. And if we solve it, it's going to be worth billions of dollars. And then your SAM is what you intend to focus on, your serviceable, addressable market, and say, based on our business model, our go-to-market strategy, our focus, if we got everybody in this segment, we'd make that money. But that's still a pie in the sky number, but it shows that you're thinking through your segments, and then your SOM is serviceable, attainable market. Realistically, this is what we can do. And how it compares is if your SOM is like 10% of your TAM, an investor's not going to believe you, right? You better have an awesome go-to-market strategy. But if it's 1% of your TAM and you're still making $100 million a year, then the investor, if they're working for a VC fund or they need that level of metrics, they need to 50x their money, they're going to be more interested. Now, that is different than your financial projections. If you plan on expanding and, all that stuff, then, put that in there. And most likely what you're going to do is you're going to say, all right, our SOM, this is what we're realistically going to make. But if we expand into these, tell the story. Now, remember this, when you're doing your pitch deck, you're not getting in the weeds. Like, I see the details right now. We're going to expand in year 2 and we're going to do this. If I'm an investor, I do not care when you're initially pitching me. I'm going to get to that later. You just want to give me the big chunks. This is our big market. This is where we're going to focus. It's a little smaller. And realistic, we think we can make $100 million a year because of this, this, and this. Fantastic. Then I'm going to look at your go-to-market strategy, and depends. If you're pre-revenue, I'm not even looking at your financial projections. Pro tip, everyone, if you're pre-revenue, don't put your financial projections in there. Nobody believes you. Nobody's going to believe you. I'm like, nice try. Now, I am more interested in a financial model, knowing that you know what it takes and your COGS and your unit economics and all that stuff. I just want to see the big numbers. And then maybe if you're generating revenue, I want to see, the numbers grow. But I'm going to dig into that later. I just want to know you've analyzed your market and you know what you're talking about. And I'm going to ask you all these questions about how did you get to this conclusion market. So hopefully that answers your question there. Thank you for that one. Okay, so keep the questions coming. As you can see, I'm going to answer them as I go. But let's take a look at this deck here. Clio, we make air travel accessible to people with pets. Great. I appreciate the upfront, straightforward, vanilla, non-buzzy. Like, I don't like the title, revolutionizing the future of air travels for all pet kind and humanity and all those things. You don't have to do that. All right, that's for customers. For investors, I appreciate this straightforward. So Leah, good job, just straightforward, making air travel accessible to people with pets. Great. So then moving along to the next slide. 71 million pet owners in the US want to fly with their dogs. Commercial airline pet restrictions make it impossible. Strict size, limited availability, flying private is inaccessible. And then you have a thing on market size. Okay, so here's where you started off good, but then you lose me right away. Way too much information. And there's no problem here. There's no pain point. The other thing you want to do, just as a quick note, I'm just going to mark here, is you want to just put problem, like right small, right up at the top, right? Just tell me where we are. And some people, they say, let me just stop. Yeah, and I heard lots of opinions. I've had people critique me on my critiques. And they said, you know what? You shouldn't have to put problem up there because your statement should be just straightforward. And it should speak for itself. And while it is true that if you have a good problem statement, you don't have to put problem up there. They're just going to know it's the problem. But most of the time, it's not that good, right? You're putting it out there. For the investor, I like to have the problem and all this stuff just so I know where I am. It's like having a table of contents without wasting a slide with the table of contents. So just put problem up there in small letters. Don't make it big. Some people, the biggest font is problem. Don't do that, right? Make it small just so I know where I am. Please, please. And I appreciate it. All right. So let's take a look. 71 million pet owners, and that's good. So anytime you're doing a problem statement, you want to put the size, scope, and severity. So now I know that there's 71 million pet owners. So I'm going to be like, okay, that's a lot. That's a big market, right? But now this commercial airline pet restrictions make it next to impossible. That is your opinion. How do you know? Well, obviously, it could be true, but you're not giving me any scope or severity of the issue. So it'd be better if you told me there's 71 million pet owners that want to fly, yet only 1 million will. I don't know, something like that. Less than 1% are actually going to be able to fly with their pets. Or give me another data point if you said, out of 71 million pet owners that want to fly, 10 million are turned away at the gates or can't fly because of this, because of that. So now, you may have that data, you might have that data, you might have to extrapolate, but telling me something is impossible, it's the same thing as saying cybersecurity is broken, banking is broken. That's your opinion. For some people, it might not be an issue whatsoever. If you're going to say 71 million pet owners want to fly, but they can't because of this, this, and this, well, then that's another story. But you're hitting me with all this inside information, and I don't need to know that yet. You can just say 71 million pet owners want to fly with their pets, but cannot because of restrictions and limitations by the airline. Its market size, 90.5 million households own a pet, 78%. Now you're just confusing me, and I'm going to say, you know what? If 90.5 million people own pets, I really don't believe you that 71 million of those want to fly with their pets. This is the problem. If you add all this stuff, just tell me the problem, the pain point, size, severity, and scope, and just tell me that this is an issue for a very big market. So, Leah, you need to rework this slide and make it consolidate into one sentence and put some teeth onto it and take your opinion out. Give me some facts. That is going to be the problem. Like, tell me how many people, get turned away, etc. every year. Today, Clio offers a mobile app for people who can't fly commercial with their dogs. You have not given me a solution. And on top of which, you've now went from pets to dogs. Big flag right away. I'm confused. You see what's happening for everybody. As soon as you put friction into the mind of the investor, you're going to start to lose them. It's kind of like one venture that I'm working on involves writing fantasy novels, okay, putting out content. And as we research, one of the issues when you're writing something is people start to track on words. And if a word is misplaced or it just doesn't seem right, doesn't make sense, what happens is, what they tell you is that the reader is taken out of the story and starts thinking about the author and starts thinking about what's written. You don't want to do that with investors. If you say something and it takes them out of that story, then guess what? No empathy. They're going to be thinking, what is this? Friction starts to happen and things start to slow down. So it's like if you got momentum, you start adding friction to the road, you start throwing like rocks into the tires and issues start to happen, or you blow a tire, then you're not going to roll forward. You've lost your momentum. And then the investors are going to say, okay, I'm done, right? So I'm pointing out all the friction points. And I'm telling you, I get really good at this because the number of decks, and let me digress for just one moment. I look at 5 decks a day, maybe 5 to 10 tops. And I am hit with a pitch probably once a day. Someone sends me a deck unsolicited and take a look at it. So I look at a lot of decks and I'm really good at picking this out and filtering it out. Another investor, and Greg Welch, who we've had on the show, I've asked him, and he said, I get hundreds a week. Hundreds. So you don't think he's really learned to filter out decks super fast? So I'm telling you right now, you may think your deck is the best thing ever because you're reading in a bubble and you don't look at all these decks and you're not drowning in them and eyes glazed over. You might be like, okay, this is great. This is wonderful. This sentence is structured and grammar makes sense in my head. But then as soon as an investor reads it after they've seen maybe like 20 other decks, right? Usually they're piled up. Any point of friction will derail your momentum. So that's the reason I get picky with this type of stuff. Now, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just letting you know, let's reduce the friction here. So Clio offers a mobile app, can't fly commercial with their dogs. You haven't explained to me how you solve the problem, right? You're just saying that this is a mobile app, fly with dogs. First, there's pets. Now there's dogs. So that really should be your SAM if you're going to focus on dogs. And your current solution MVP. So I don't need to know that. Target market pet owners. Yeah, I know that, right? Features automatically matches pet owners in groups to book a shared private charter. Okay, see this little thing here? Okay, so this is interesting to me. Now, remember everyone who's watching this now and who are going to watch in the thing, future. An investor is not going to stop and try to break down your deck like I'm doing right now. I'm doing it because I'm trying to help this founder in this startup. But if I say automatically features pet owners, okay, great. That to me is interesting. Next, why? Tens of thousands of pet owners use Facebook manually to find groups to share charters. It take weeks. That's a problem. This is the problem statement, okay? So now I'm super confused. Now let's try to workshop this. If you told me that there are tens of thousands, now I want a direct number. So if you told me there are 10 million people a year who try to manually find shared chartered flights for their pets, but they run into issues, but there's no solution for them, now that's interesting. And if you said your solution was we have a mobility app or a mobile app that allows pet owners to find shared chambers and do all the paperwork so they can fly with their pets, now that's a problem solution, right? And here's the thing, I'm going to say this like a broken record. If you've ever heard me talk about this, there is a problem and a solution and they have to match. So if your problem is that something is slow, expensive, and manual, well, then your solution better say it is fast, cheap, and automated, right? It just needs to be the direct inverse. But if you tell me the problem is everybody with pets has this problem, and then your solution is for dogs, friction, you haven't solved the problem yet, right? But if you told me millions of people are having this problem, they want to fly with pets, and they try and book on Facebook groups unsuccessfully to get chartered groups together. And the solution is we help people find chartered groups through an app so they can fly with their pets. You see what I did? I just reversed it. So you want to make sure your problem and solution line up. Back to what we got here. Leah, you got to rework this, right? Problem, solution have to match up. And all this extraneous information about year-to-date stats and everything, I don't need to see this yet. I just want to know problem solution. You're just creating more friction and you're gunking it up. And I know you really want to get in there and share that you've done some good stuff, but that's not helping at this moment in time. Let's continue. Next, Clio will partner with private charter companies to offer. I don't need to know what's next, right? Now you're getting into phase 2. I don't even understand the problem solution. Now you're getting into roadmap. This should be way later on, or this should be a go-to-market strategy. This is a better go-to-market strategy that you're going to partner to get customers. Finally, Clio will partner with commercial airlines, equip dog-friendly flights. Okay, I don't need to know that, right? You know what I'm really looking for is I'm looking for problem solution, market size, which you put in there and it got convoluted. Why now? Maybe you want to put this right after a solution slide. 90.5 million households have a pet and 78% they want to travel with their pets. Okay, now you're giving me some more information. This probably should have been in the problem slide. In a survey of dog owners, all this stuff, right? I'm not going to read all this. I am not going to read all this. Remember, we're at an introduction sorting, and maybe this comes up in due diligence in your research. Now we come to TAM. All right. Now I see this is an issue. You're already breaking it all up. So 7.24 billion private commercial flight markets. That's not your TAM. That's not your TAM, Leah. You were telling me that there's currently $7.24 billion spent on traveling with pets. Not your TAM. I know that for a fact. So number of pet owners and average cost, etc. So now, I'm looking at it right here. You're showing me some math. So let's look at this. 90.5, average cost commercial flight, 500. TAM, 90.5 million pet owners. 20% travel by air, $500 cost, 2 flights a year, 18.1. Okay, 18.1 billion in ticket sales. Now I'm so confused. Plus private flight, like you've given me so much convoluted math here. This TAM, you got to work it out. Just tell me, TAM is 7.24 billion. Here's how we calculate it. Here are the number of people who are going to book flights and what they're going to pay, and here's our total addressable market. Here's what this is. So 7.24, I don't even see how this is your TAM. I don't understand, and that's a major problem that you're running into right away. So now I'm going to see Sam and pet owners and 1% who fly private. It's so convoluted, and we're not going to understand. So breakdown, TAM, SAM, SOM should fit on one slide. Okay, we'll monetize within the private flights market. I'm not going to read this. right? Revenue streams, all that stuff. So if you're going to do, this is a business model slide. This is all you need to do. Just give me a bullet point list, and you say, we do this, and we charge this amount of money. That's it, right? Next, we charge this, and keep it simple. And that's all you have to do, everyone. Just this. This is how we're going to charge. And I should be able to understand it. And then you maybe have a little bit of explanation as to how you get to that, especially if it's battle tested. Let me give a pro tip, everybody. Make sure you battle test your business model. If you say you're going to charge $20, how do you know? How do you know people are going to pay that? If you've done analysis and say, we're going to charge 10% less than our competitor because we have the same features. But if you're just come up with a willy-nilly number, like I've seen founders come out and their price more expensive than the competitors, and they haven't given me any justification as to why your pricing is more expensive, right? So investors are going to nail you on this, that if you haven't thought through your pricing and your assumptions. Battle testing. So tell me that you actually had customers, okay, respond to you, etc., right? So we're going to continue along here. All right, so next, moving along. All right, we'll expand to enable pet-friendly commercial flights long-term. I don't know what this is, all right? We don't need this slide. Includes advantages of commercial aircraft specially designed. Okay, so now this is where I'm really struggling already, okay? You're telling me that there's a commercial aircraft specially designed to accommodate dogs? You know, and I'm sure in the audience here, and you're going to be watching this, it's like, wait a second, are you telling me that you are building a plane specially for dogs? Like, how is that a special advantage, right? You just told me that you have an app that connects pet owners in groups, and now you're telling me there's a special commercial plane, right? So now you're reaching, and here's what I'm automatically thinking with this, that you now have a solution looking for a problem, right? You now are just throwing stuff into your pitch deck to try and impress an investor, and an investor's not going to be impressed. You know what the investor's going to think? The investor's going to say, there's no way in the world that you're going to pull this off. You're all over the place. You say you've got an MVP, but now you're talking about all this other stuff. How about we just get the MVP to work? How about we just get phase 1 to work, and we go from there, right? And I just realized, apologize, everyone. I just didn't have my screen zoomed in. Okay, hopefully you can see the full screen now, and we can go from there. Next, our database traveling pet owners are our main value driver to airlines. So now, this is where, okay, and you can tell I'm starting to get more frustrated. And this is the other thing. If you're solving the problem for pet owners, then stay focused. But it's another problem completely if this founder came out and said, all right, airlines want to accommodate pet owners, but they can't because their planes suck and they don't know how to do it. So now we built you a plane, and this is going to go great. Now, that's a B2B solution, and I don't own a pet. So maybe you're a pet owner out there. I'd love to hear what you think. But you see how now we've completely confused the investor. And now we're just sitting there going, what is this? Is this for airlines? Is this for employees? Is this for people with pets? This is the issue, right? So, all right. So let's keep going here. All right. So now that I'm getting hot under the collar here, I started Clio. Here's a little story, right? And software product leadership, all this stuff. Now, this is tough. Just give me some bullet points. And the fact that we got only one founder here, like this is an issue. Supplemental team, like this, just not enough. Like, tell me who your engineers are. Like, give me a team that you have experience working on the problem. Today, Clio's 800. Now, here's some traction. 800 registered pet owners and 144 planned private flights. Now, this is fascinating for me. I wasn't expecting this. Our traction to date includes 800 pet owners, 636 pets, 144 planned flights. Like, what does that mean? Like, 65.63 months over month growth. The app had 64 customers paying $9.99 a month before we pivoted, removed the free fee. Did you actually fly 636 pets? I don't think so. It's unclear. So traction slide is very confusing. We're raising $2.5 million to reach 195K MRR after 24 months. All right. So I appreciate we're raising X amount of dollars to reach Y milestone by Z timeframe, which is great. Instrument safe. You know, this slide's okay. You don't have to put so much information in there, but pretty good, solid. Okay, so there's the pitch deck. So you see how you lost me from slide 1, and it just went downhill from there. And I wanted to cover all the different things just to provide the feedback. But if you don't have your problem and your solution really locked in, like it just doesn't stay there. It should be problem, solution, market is really what it boils down to. Those are your 3 main slides that are the heaviest and most important slides. Why? Problem, investor wants to know, is this a problem that I care about? And do I understand the problem? Do people have the problem? Solution, are you actually solving the problem in a unique and novel way that totally makes sense? And then market size, if you're approaching a startup investor, the market size is important because the startup investor wants to know there's $1 billion behind it. Like, this is big enough. I'm dealing with this as a founder right now. I'm going to have a meeting with him. After all the calculations that we did, I looked at it. This startup will max, if they hit every customer in the world, will max out at $40 million. $40 million. And I said, I can't take this to VCs. I can't take this to startup investors because startup investor needs you to get to $100 million and then right in the beginning and then go beyond by going public or being sold. So that makes you a unicorn. But if you stop at under $100 million, you're never going to make unicorn status. No one's going to want to buy you, all those things. So if your market is not big enough, then there's going to be an issue. So that's the reason those 3 slides are important. That's what I look for every single time. Did you communicate the problem? Are you solving it with a unique solution? And is the market big enough for the investment thesis that I have as an investor or that the whatever fund or whatever investor I'm presenting to? Now, remember, some investors are like, I'd be happy if I made $10 million, or if you made $10 million, those aren't startup investors. Those are just regular mom pop shop investors. And that's the reason you might have a different deck and you might want to not contact the startup investors and just focus on friends, family, and associate. Okay. So that's the first thing. You see how in depth we're going to go. All right. I got a bunch more. We're going to try and get through these, but let's answer this question here. All right. Doug is asking a question. For startups that aren't yet investable, is working to fine tune the deck a waste of time? No, I don't think it's a waste of time as long as you understand the expectations and why you're doing it. When I launch a startup, very first day I have an idea, I make a pitch deck. It's a black and white, janky outline of pitch deck with just plain text, and I test it. And it's usually just problem, solution, market size, how it's going to work. Something like that. The reason I do that is from day one, I'm pitching because one, investors want to track on your progress. So if you can get them interested on day one and they create a relationship with you, well, let's just keep going. 2, it gives me practice in refining it. So if I'm pitching it, it's great in my head and my alpha testers, okay? I have every deck startup venture that I do, I have alpha testers, which are the ones that will just listen to me pitch verbally or look at 3, 4 PowerPoint slides, and they'll tell me I get it, I don't get it. I've got beta testers, and they'll look at the full deck, still not designed, this and that. And then I've got my early adopters and et cetera, and I keep going. Innovators, early adopters, the innovation adoption curve. I do that from day one. And that's how I make sure by the time I need money, my pitch decks are good. Like it's the same thing. And if you watch our video, Greg Welch, he put this whole phrase, he said, we turn your diamonds into coal. That's how we approach cybersecurity. And he has this whole talk of explaining how in cybersecurity, people build a wall or they build a monitoring system around their data. Like, let's just build a big wall and prevent people from coming in, or let's just make sure we watch all this stuff, right? Then he got to the point where he refined and he said, most people want to do this, but we turn your diamonds into coal. So even if they steal them, it's using encryption. And I asked him, how long did it take for you to get to that? And it's like iterations and iterations and iterations of trying to explain it. Why would you leave that right to the very end when you're in front of investors and totally muff it up when you could have been practicing from day one is really what it boils down to. Okay. So that's how it works. So great question. Thanks, Doug, for asking those. Let me see what my next pitch deck is, because I just want to make sure that I'm doing this in order. All right, so Chatworks. Okay, so this next pitch deck is called Chatworks. And let's take a look at Chatworks so far. Chatworks. Okay, smart contracts over mobile chat. You've lost me right away. Smart contracts, I think of crypto, and most people without the technical expertise are not going to understand what smart contracts are over mobile chat. Okay, so because I was a heavy investor in crypto a few years ago, I will understand sort of where this is going, but smart contracts over mobile chat, you've lost me right away. Just tell me the problem you're solving or one sentence of what your startup does, and then we can go from there. Now let's move to the problem slide. Everyone is on mobile chat. That's not a problem, okay? That's one opinion, everyone, and it's in parentheses. So what does that mean, everyone? Okay, so why waste that time and why automatic with the friction? Smartphones are the most proliferated networking computer device in the world. Okay, that's one matter of fact. 2, there's no data behind that. Now, if I told you, let me test this out. I fundraised using this before. I said, did you know that more people have smartphones in the world than toothbrushes? So I'm giving a novel insight. If you want to lead that way, start that way, and then I've got the data to back it up. But if you're like, smartphones are the most proliferated thing in the world, okay. Like, you're wasting my time. Mobile chat is most engaged. Okay. 3 billion daily active users. Okay. Now you can say 3 billion people use their smartphones every day. Next to no net churn, hardly means anything. 500 million more users joined by the end of this decade. So first of all, don't even have this slide. Get right into the problem. But if you're going to have something like this during a live presentation, put some more teeth on it, not your opinion. That doesn't help. Mobile money is ubiquitous. Now, you're like, okay, 1 billion users worldwide. Doing what? Okay, 90 countries doing what? Growing 13%. Doing what? I don't understand. Mobile money. What is mobile money? Transacting money over mobile? So tell me 1 billion people transact money online through their phones every day. And on top of it, you could have combined these 2 slides, all right? So now You lost me right there. And I'm pointing this out once again, not to be mean, but so that you understand what goes through the investor's mind and why you don't want to do this, okay? Online advertising converts slow, all right? Google search, the best, only does 8%. Actually, 8% is really good, from my opinion. See, you're leaving it to chance. Surveillance, interruption, spam. What does all this mean? Okay, you've lost me. You've lost me. Let's continue. We can do better. Your opinion, okay? And not only that, we can do better. I don't need to do better. You need to do better. So tell me, so smart contracts over mobile chat, how does that actually solve the problem? High resolution contract generation. Now you're telling me all this stuff, 10x cheaper, 10x higher converting. By what metrics? Like, you're not explaining anything to me. So here's the demo. Simple entry-level starter product, teaches people to create, incorporate fulfillment layer launchpad. I still don't know what's going on. Traction, empirically tested. What does that mean? What does empirically tested mean? Airtime rewarded referrals engine, 15 cents reward per trial, customer acquisition, 2,500. For what? Okay, one rewarded referral virality. I don't understand. Like, more than one, a better ratio, empirically established. I don't understand. You just reach airtime reward. Like, you see how this is very confusing now. Go to market, stage, critical mass, tipping point. Now, here's where you lost me. I don't even know what your go-to-market strategy is going to be because I don't know what your product is, right? So this doesn't mean anything. Total addressable market, I just need a TAM, SAM, SOM. I appreciate the fact you're showing me calculations, but give me a big number, TAM, SAM, SOM. So benchmark serviceable audience, 1 billion. Like, benchmark usage, 1 smart post per user. This doesn't make any sense. Competition, yeah, I don't know. Platform, so Instagram, Facebook, Google, YouTube, Chatworks. You're saying all of them transact money or do smart contracts? I don't understand. Financial projections, not going to mean anything. Platform risk mitigation, founder, okay, raise, US, viral coefficient, burn rate. I don't understand. Give me just a regular raise slide. I'm raising X amount of dollars to reach Y milestone in Z time frame. Okay, so let's talk about this for just one moment. And I'm total conjecture here. All right, I had no idea if what this founder means, but I'm going to try and put it together. If you told me, like, you're going to have to justify to me why you would put a smart contract on mobile. One, smart contracts are dirt slow. If you're telling me that mobile money transactions are not secure anymore and there's too much cheating and that's why smart contracts are needed, well, that's a whole other thing. Like, if you just told me, 100 million people lose money lose money doing financial transactions online because of lack of security. Okay, just totally making up. I'm like, okay, that's a problem. That's a problem. 100 million people lose. Let's make this better. 100 million people lose $4 billion a year because of faulty transactions, insecure, online, over mobile. Okay, now there's a problem. And then you said, we use smart contracts to protect mobile transactions and reduce the cost compared to PayPal, Venmo, or anything like that by 90%. Is a 10x solution. Okay, now I'm interested. Now tell me how it works. And so now if you show me the market, these are how many people transact. That's my TAM. And this is a SAM. We're going to focus on people who use crypto or who are crypto savvy. So X amount of the market, and we got all of them. We make this amount of money, and we think we can realistically make this money in 5 years. This is our song. And then you told me how it works. User comes on board, signs up their wallet, does this, sends money, smart contract, both sign it, etc. And then now you're going to have to tell me, and you said smart contract. Now I need to know the blockchain protocol. I need to know, like, are you a layer 1, layer 2? Like, what are you using? How do you handle gas fees? Because as soon as you tell me gas fees, I'm like, that's not 10x cheaper. Sorry, not going to happen, right? And I'm a technically savvy investor, right? So immediately, if someone I'm technically savvy automatically will blow holes through everything. And on top of which, you showed me your competition is Facebook. Facebook doesn't do smart contracts. YouTube doesn't do smart contracts. Like, so we're all over the place. And this, again, I think is just a solution looking for a problem. It's just a bright idea. Like, I literally think the idea is smart contracts on smartphones is really what it is. Now, how can I make this work? An investor to do that. It hasn't been thought through, and this all goes all the way back. This deck, founder, I appreciate you sending it. I'm sending you all the way back to idea validation. You need to idea validate, you need problem solution, and test it on people, whether people even want it or would try it. And you're saying you've empirically proven it, but airline testing and all this stuff, like, it's just so jumbled together. It's almost like you're trying to gaslight me. No. I validated it. Please trust me. You can give me the money. I don't see it. So this is a major issue right there. Okay, so do that. Go back to the drawing board. All right, so that was a faster one. Let's go over to this agency. Now, I owe Peter a pitch deck review. We already talked about pitch deck, so I'm just going to go through this. And this one's a little better in terms of following the format and something that we can all learn from, okay, which I think is important. So this is Peter's deck. Peter is a member here at Startups.com. Okay, so take a look. So project done. Access reliable talent safely and cheap rather than fire them expensive. Okay, so it's a little too convoluted. It needs to be just straightforward and trying to get too clever with this, right? So just say access reliable talent safely and safe and cheap. Then spending, like, just tell me access reliable talent safely and cheaply. right? Instead of full-time employees, something like that. Now here, 90% of scalable startups run out of money early, and usually over 60% of their capital is spent on labor that is often expensive, slow, unreliable. All right, now I'm just gonna take all the design out of this. This is better because, like flat out, you give me some numbers, 90% of scalable startups. Now, you're giving me a defining term, scalable. What does that mean? Like 90% of startups that raise Series A, raise seed, and 60%, because 60% of the capital is spent on labor that's hiring full-time labor. Like expensive, slow, unreliable, that's fine. Just it's a good start, but just really narrow and hone it down. This is for everybody, because I've already talked to Peter, and I'm sure he's reworked this deck about 1,000,000 times, because he's that type of founder, always improving, right? But you see how we're getting closer to putting size, scope, and severity on the problem. Something like 90% of startups. Okay, great. A talent as a service platform, that means nothing to me. Get rid of the kitschy words. Where startups can access skilled talent for remote project execution, where labor is also affordable, fast, and safe. Okay, so let's workshop this here, everybody, using these principles. And this is for the recording and everybody who's watching. Keep those questions coming if you want them. So if I came to you and I said, did you know that 90% of startups fail because 60% of the money they raise goes to labor? That's it. That's a problem. Now, how do we solve that problem? Well, what we do is we have a network, okay? It's a platform where you can hire freelancers for 40% less, and it's matched to what you got going on. We handle all the payments and all that stuff. So I don't have to spend 60% of my labor on full-time employees. I can use freelancers. But immediately, here's what I'm thinking to myself. And go through the mind of the investor, all right? Just as much as you have to have empathy for the customer, think through the mind of the investor. Investor's going to go, great, but you're comparing apples to oranges. So if you've got a full-time employee and I'm going to spend 60%, yeah, automatically. Guess what? For those of you who haven't hired yet, who don't have full-time employees, an employee will cost you 50% of their salary above and beyond, okay, is what's happening. So if you've got an employee that you spent $100,000, it costs you $50,000 for that, or $150,000, $50,000 for all the stuff, extra insurance and unemployment and safety and all this stuff, right? So that's the reason if an employee is disengaged, they cost you 2.5 times. They'll cost you $250,000 disengaged employee, because that employee is going to be toxic or not productive, all those things. But here's the reason why I hire employees, because they're fundamentally cheaper than freelancers. Okay, just think it through. The freelancer, like I promise them a salary and they're not distracted. They don't have multiple clients, etc. So now you're telling me I can hire a freelancer that's 40% cheaper than an employee. So now I've got friction, right? Now maybe you've solved this issue and bam, you're going to explain to me, because there's nothing wrong with you saying, aha, and I'm sure you're thinking, why would I hire a freelancer, etc. Let's take a look. Let's see if this happened. Traction. No, it doesn't. So this slide needs to go further on. Unless you have a ton of traction. Let me explain this to everyone. Why would you ever put a traction slide up right after the solution? It's only if you had like 40 million users. 40 million users agree. If you have that great of traction, then you're going to put that slide up front. Let me give you an example. Facebook, go look up Facebook's pitch after they got out of, was it Stanford or Harvard? But their first slide, I think it was Harvard, Stanford, something like that. It was a quote of how much traction. Students are so busy because 90% of all the students are on Facebook or something along those lines. That's massive traction. So if you have 40 million users, I have a founder. Give you an example. This is how I would pitch him. I have a founder and advise him. And in 3 months, he was profitable. He launched, and now he has 40 million users. And in 3 months, he was profitable. And like global explosion. He has a VC or a private equity company contacting him. That's traction I lead with. I would just say, right, first slide, 40 million users have downloaded our app for our features, et cetera. And we've been profitable in month 3. Bam. Hit him, punch him right in the face. But if you don't have amazing traction that's just going to blow the socks, like you better just blow the pants off me. My pants better be on the floor. I was going to say something other than pants, okay? But this is a PG, child-friendly show. My pants better be on the floor because you just blown them off for you to put traction up front. Being hyperbolic here, but it really what it comes down. So we're going to move the traction all the way back. Traction normally should go right after team, just letting you know, because you want to show the team and look at what we've done. Here's how amazing we are, and look what we've done already. Business model. We sell, we keep talents. Okay. I don't understand this business model. Okay, restricted 30-day tickets. Like, just explain to me how you get the freelancers and how you match up and how you make everything 40% and why it's cheaper for me. Go to market strategy, founder-led sales. Okay, this is going to be okay. I remember looking at this. This is all right, but it's still too confusing. Here's the team. All right, second-time founder, and all this stuff. Like, now look at this. Look at this thing here, everybody. Like, this is what happens when you try to get a little too clever. So you've got the team here, and then let me just use another color to highlight this. 160 pounds lost, 80% spent on labor. That doesn't look like a good thing for your team, everyone. So this is the issue. So let's keep going and take a look, see if we can find some other things to look at. We are seeking and raising. All right. So let's go back and say, how do we improve this step? So you saw my 90% of startups. Now, if you want to work in startups, being a meta startup, like trying to help startups, that's a bad idea. So let's backtrack here. I would say if 90% of companies fail because 60%, and you're going to start with startups as your SAM, your target market, now that's a totally different story. Let's say I came to you and everybody here in the audience, right? This is my pitch. I said 90% of companies fail because they have to spend 60% on their labor, on full-time employees. And you've got disengagement, you've got inflated costs, entitlement, all that stuff. We have figured out a way for companies to hire freelancers and save 40% on their labor costs by creating a platform that manages everybody. And as I'm saying this, I have a founder right now who's raised millions of dollars, who's built this, okay? We manage it, and we provide a network where you can source your freelancers and you can pay them all online, and it manages for you. And this is how we save 40%. Great. Here's the market, pitching the investor here. 90% of companies. So how many millions of companies? Let's say 20 million companies bankrupt every year because of this problem. That's my market. If they all paid us, here's our TAM. We're going to focus on startups as our beachhead market. In fact, startups is just really bad. And I have inside information on this. Go to startups and use that as your go-to-market strategy. But you say, we are working with companies with 10 employees, between 10 and 25 employees, which is now, let's say 5 million companies. And if they paid us, this is how much money we make. Realistically, we think we'll do $100 million in 5 years because of this, and that. Okay? Problem, solution, market. Now I want to know how it works. How did you figure out this problem? Step one, we collect everybody in a pool of freelancers and get them to fill out assessments and everything like that, okay? Then our engine matches to the employee, and the employee fills out, I need help with marketing, I need help with this and that, this is how much I've spent, and then there's a calculation comes out, bang, here's your 40%. It's like Geico Insurance, okay? 40 seconds or more will save you 40% or more on your employee, okay? Don't use that, but 5 minutes, save you 5% or more, something like that. I don't remember what the Geico was, right? So I'm going to explain that, and then this is how we manage it, and then this is how you pay them. But I need to know the secret sauce as to why, because now think of it from an investor standpoint. I'm thinking about Upwork. I'm thinking about Fiverr.com. So how does that work? And now I'm going to need a competitive slide, et cetera, and show how that works. And then I need your business model and how you're making money. Because here's the other friction factor. If you are saving me 40%, how are you making money? Because technically, let's say you're taking 5%. Well, then how about I just pay, you should be saving me 45%, right? You're not actually saving me 40%. You're only saving me 35%. You see what's going through an investor's mind? This is how much we scrutinize these business models and we bat around. So if you're not in the head of the investor and you're not ahead of the investor, where you know the questions they're going to be asking because they have blown holes through your deck. There's the reason you need those alpha testers and those beta testers. Blow holes through the deck so that you know what investors are going to be thinking. If you're not there, then you are going to have a serious problem, and you're going to basically shoot your shot and completely miss when you're presenting to that famous angel investor, or you're going to Y Combinator, because they're going to be asking all those questions. They're way smarter than me. They've seen way more pitches, and they actually put their money on the line, so they're going to be a lot harder on it. Or you've talked and you just happen to have an opportunity to talk to a bona fide VC, and then you haven't done any of this and your pitch falls flat. You don't want that to occur. So battle test your pitch decks right from day one, and that's the reason I really love this question. Should you start working on it from day one? So I'm going to leave that right there and provide the feedback and send this to the founders. For those of you who are watching this, if you want your own pitch deck done, leave a comment or contact me. Startups.com, you know where to find me. Come on our forums. I'm posting all over the place. Get a hold of me on Slack or email me, your deck advisor at Startups.com. And then we'll do this. And I'm going to do this every Tuesday, everyone, and walk through. And hopefully we get a nice variety of decks. And I'll try and mix it up. But right now I got to get through my backlog because I owe a lot of people these pitch deck reviews. There you have it. Thank you very much, everyone, for checking this out. Join us at Startups.com. We got a lot of free information. If you want an advisor like me or all our advisors, we've got amazing group of talented advisors that will help you with pitch deck. We have the pitch deck course online where you can just go and take a look, and it's pretty much what I've learned from, and we can then start to go back and forth. If you join us at Startups.com, join us in the community. Appreciate everybody who sent that in. I'm going to end it here because I don't want to jump into another pitch deck. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all your participation, for hanging on. And for those of you who are watching this on a recording, appreciate you as well. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next version or episode of Startups.com Live.